We are unmuted. Can you hear us?
You can hear us?
Oh, good.
All right, there we go. Okay. All right, our workshop meeting agenda. We're starting with a presentation. I had asked for, other municipalities have some standards that they have for their domains, and I thought it would be helpful for us, especially the receiving trustees, to have a set of standards, a policy that we adopt that outline the structure of our meetings, because they just kind of carried over year. And I thought it would be useful to go over what our options might be, if there was anything we wanted to change as board, if there was anything we should consider. So Riley has put that together.
I attached the model rules from the Committee on Open Government website, so you can see that just topically what they suggested we included. And then I expanded them based upon conversations with the mayor, and I produced a sample for you to consider and make any changes to prior to adoption. And then we'll put them on the website, etc.
I have two questions about this for you. Number one, are there limits to the changes that we can make based on, like, sort of overall municipal law? And which of these things are modifications to our, what we understood to be the practices we were, even though we didn't have a document like this previously, we sort of like learned on, as time went on, like, oh, you can't actually do that.
Right.
Must do it this way. Usually you find it out, goes wrong. So what's different here? I guess is the important question.
These are based on the legal parameters. They also, so in other words, you can revise this, but only to the extent it's not adverse to your requirements under open meetings law in your own code. So for example, you broadcast video conferencing, you have to make that available for ADA, and that's just the law. So, that would be something that would say, no, we're not doing it, but I would advise it.
So I think the main things that would or could be different are the order in which we do things, which are here.
Yeah, and I included, I just included the things that you have currently on your agenda. And then provided an opportunity from the general rules for you to skip things, take things out of order, someone to say, I think we're not usually allow or blah, 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 so.
And then I didn't really have huge things to say. I was hoping to make it, but we talked about the idea of new business and having that as a section regularly on our agenda so that there could be an opportunity for different things, that there's place for it, and we don't have to like awkwardly add it in. I did want to point out, like, the way that we structure the workshop agenda probably matters even less than regular meeting agenda, right? It's less formatted. But I did want to understand the difference between new business and old business and a workshop agenda. And we've been doing like new business first and then old business next. And I feel like that makes old business never necessarily get resolved. And sort of we need to do old business before new business. It's really like kind of mirrors to stuff.
You're still sparking communications policy.
Yeah, maybe, or the financial policy for just people. Does it matter? Like, why do people do? I mean, new business, I imagine, on a regular agenda is because
Something may have come up
it came up during the meeting.
within, a period of time where that clerk isn't able to actually get the notice out with a revised agenda. So, and this order of business clearly says for a regular meeting.
Right.
So, any meeting can be an agenda for any meeting, just by virtue of the law recently signed into law by the governor last year. Has to be on your website, but nothing in open meetings law requires an agenda. But you just want to make sure that items you're discussing on your agenda are clearly available to the public. Usually it says within 24 hours of any item. So you just want to make sure that you're not adding things new to the agenda just for the sake of adding.
Normally, new business and the regular agenda would be empty on the agenda there in case there's new business to bring up.
Yes. Many of our other clients, communities, it's just a numbered item. Any new business of the board? No, none.
Okay.
Any call for an executive session? I've received no requests. Moving on, and you will just go.
Leave that in the new structure, but it's just still new for us. And then I wanted to move trustee liaison reports to be during workshop time. If there's any reason to do that, I would just prefer us to be sharing trustee reports with each other more collaboratively than the way we usually do it, which is like announcements at the end. So I'm gonna pull that off.
It's probably a time consideration, because I know agendas can be pretty lengthy,
Yeah,
but this is consideration.
Well, that workshop agendas are limited to just an hour.
that's right.
So I'm crunched on both, but it's really up to what you want to do. And even though it remains on as a topic or something, yeah, you're welcome to do that during the workshop, of course.
I think it might be helpful still have an announcement period during the regular meeting.
Right.
But I agree with you. I feel that always felt a little forced where, often I don't have anything of substance to share. I mean, participate in another meeting, but it's just like regular planning board business. There's not really anything to share with you. So I think the discussion, like our discussion are better held at the workshop. So, like obviously have something to add on for the comp plan, right? Because we just had a big meeting. But, and so like.
Maybe we just change that to be more, the reports, trustee liaison.
Yeah, I think it's just, like I said, it always just felt like, kind of forced that we have to report on something that really has to do at that point. So.
Make it major announcements with the report. Exclamation point.
And again, it doesn't have to go in this order. If you have a particularly important announcement to make, like a donation of $1.8 million from a really, really, really good endowment somewhere, then you would want to put that at the top of the.
Do you have an announcement?
No.
It's the first of business.
Yeah. And then, yes.
I wanted to suggest that we meet courtesy before. I don't know, if it should be before presentations, or I don't know, I just think it might be worth, like, this if you are going to usually do things, but one thing that I would start to feel bad about is when we're up there and we have like presentations and then online appointments and then public hearings and then like people who just want to say something about like what some random thing,
Something
like
great.
I've now waited for 2 hours. So I don't know, maybe it can be done on as for meeting basis, if there's.
Anybody who does this more frequently, is there better for this person for than?
Yeah, I mean, I
Earlier.
Well, your public hearings usually involve consultants for applicants, so you just want to make sure that you can even move the public hearings to farther to the top, and then before presentations and appointments, you could put courtesy. But you want to encourage people to speak at a public hearing, and then you also want the courtesy of the floor, which is outside this.
There's also a respect thing, so if an applicant or something has professionals here that's paying by the hour, I'd rather not make them sit and just keep their running.
Yeah, because generally when you make an appearance in any court, those that are represented, usually the judge will call them a first call, so that's, again, it can be taken out of order. If it's an applicant that clearly has a team here, you can always take those before your appointments. And the appointments have generally been just make oral announcements. But in some cases, it's an appointment of a new police officer, and you wanna give them their due as well, so it's, I don't know, how does your not?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, this is more for community boards and the city, they do have a, they'll call it courtesy floor, but the public comment right at the beginning. And, it, you know, it's limited to 2 minutes per speaker, but, I think it makes sense because then it'll help inform like some of what would be on our agenda. And also, to Jess's point, like I was speaking to someone recently, I said, oh, I saw you at a trustee meeting, and he said, yeah, I was gonna say something, but then the meeting went so long, I had to leave. So we wanna encourage people to come in. It's not helpful if it doesn't have it, 2 slots.
The
Yeah.
school
Board
board
has 2 slots.
We wouldn't recommend that. We do have some communities that do that, but
And then they're like, all right, that's enough for now.
The school board
Well,
has
generally-
2 spots. One is for, things related to the agenda,
Yes.
and one is for things not.
yes, usually before you get to the resolutions, you'll have some of the communities join that around the courtesy of the floor to speak specifically to resolutions. But in this case, you're providing that opportunity for courtesy of the floor, which includes comments on resolutions. So, you know, it's really up to you. If you wanna move the public hearings closer to the top, that's public comment, and then you wanna do, you know, you can, again, these are just items, that they can be taken out of order. And they're the needs of the community.
Based on the Milwaukee area.
We shouldn't change it on the fly in a meeting, though. It should be set
No,
so
I
that
mean,
people know when they should.
When we're building the agenda, we can look at it and be like, oh, that's level 8 before.
If it's a presentation of a report from the
Yeah.
committee or as opposed to a presentation of something that's gonna end up going to the planning board for site planning, you know, those 2 things are different, and you would want to have that presentation, because it'll be the first time the public is seeing it. So you'd want that presentation to come prior, and then allow the courtesy of the floor then to go after that, because it will be the first time. Really, you know, we've done pre-application meetings and, you know, then we get it on the agenda for a presentation for referral and secret. So,
So maybe what we can do is just take that, into consideration, time, and think about who is set to on there, but
And that's what I would recommend whenever we can, you put executive session at the end, so that, like, like call the meeting in a session, and then we all remember, lose people that have to wait for us to
Right.
come back up.
Is that sort of related because of whoever's here for
Well,
our?
again, it depends, but,
yeah,
but if
And if
someone's zooming in to talk to us from
Mhm.
off-site, that's.
if it's truly an executive session, then it would need to be conducted before you take action on any resolution in connection with an executive session, like your
Right, it's
bargaining
part of
agreements,
the
your
meetings.
sales or transfers of
Or
property.
would it be a reason we couldn't like, you know, in resolutions, do like the 1, 2, 3, go into executive session, and come back out for.
We can go in exec session on minutes for the vote.
I think we just kind of very,
I mean, If you've
I always thought it
appointed,
was more sense.
if you've appointed special counsel for a reason, sometimes those attorneys, have other items that, you know, like I know the last time, Counsel Pinsky was with us, he had a meeting to go to after he met with you. He had a meeting to go to with a client where they were working in bylaws, et cetera, for their fire department or something. And sometimes that happens with Mr. Zuckerman as well, that he's appearing in the report. So really, it will depend. I know it's difficult to know in advance because, you know, you don't know at any given time what's gonna maybe arise that will require you to have advice of counsel or an executive session, which are appropriate circumstances, which I listed in detail at the suggestion of your clerk. Those are actually right in here, the executive session. Is under the law.
I would just add, sometimes to conduct business after the executive session to make a informed decision. Basically, it's the business afterwards, which is part of the meeting anyway, so it really depends on.
And also, this is a ridiculous consideration, or it is a consideration, and that is that the less we can do executive sessions, not mean over here, big rice paper thin wall between us, that, we should consider like the, some, or some increase,
Or you can conduct executive sessions deeper into the building.
or that.
A sound machine or anything?
Yes, we have that. Difficult, but they're all out here getting on, it's like they're all on works. Especially when things get volume goes up.
All right, and I think the other thing that's good is that we can just link to this and in terms of expectations when we have a big crowd of people who want to speak about the topic, trying to have, you know, guidance for public comments and have this available. to speak. Works. Okay, 3 minutes for,
Wait, I still have one more. The question of motions always kind of seem somewhat undemocratic to me, that know that trustees can't propose a motion. So that's in here, it's as it's always been, which is that motions are adopted by the mayor, in the deputy mayor or next, whatever it's called, presiding authority. So I don't know how everyone feels about that. I don't want us, obviously, meetings to digress into free-for-all, but I think that there is a certain egalitarian principle, all the elected officials having a right to
Introduce a motion that's not on the agenda.
That's new business.
right, so if it's not on the agenda, you want to introduce. Now, this is section.
How does that play with what this is very specific about?
This would be for the passing of your resolutions, almost like your consent agenda, the items that are on for actual resolutions. And there are detailed resolutions always in your packet available to the public. Usually you just call for a motion and a second, and then there's discussion on whatever the topic is. Then you vote on the resolution that's in your packet. But what you're talking about is new business. You would make the motion. Is there any items of new business? Dr. Gupta would say, I make a motion that we cut all the trees down on Main Street, and then bad example, then someone seconds it. No one in this room would second it, but then there'd be discussion about that, and then that may proceed to a vote or not.
So you put me over, so I guess what I'm asking about is like, say, proposes this delightful thing, and then I second it because, you know, trees on Main Street, and then he could still vote on that despite the fact that we don't have a typed up resolution.
There'd be discussion, because after the motion and the second, then there's discussion.
Sure. And
And
that
then
would
I
be
think we could
considered a
just change
legitimate
that.
motion despite the fact that this is quite clear
Hold on,
about.
I'll change. So then it could say to introduce an item of business or take any action. Meaning the village board, a trustee shall call for a motion. And I'm a trustee.
Yeah, I think
You're a trustee.
that's sort of what I was getting at for item 4 on page 6. Because I don't think that, when I read this, what you say, Norley, isn't clear to me. That like, if I were a new trustee and I would join you tomorrow, I would not understand.
So you want to, we can, to introduce an item of business.
Or we don't choose it, so.
Right. We can clarify. So that's an agenda item. And then I can just, I can just make sure we say new business motions.
Sounds good.
Yes. That's great.
So I think the idea is this is implying that we're talking about things that are already.
Mhm. Well, you shall call for a motion. And that, you could just.
I could also call, are there any motions for any new business?
No, but I mean, to introduce an item of business, the mayor shall call for a motion, including any items of new business. That's all. Because you would say, at the end, you would say, new business. Do we have any motions for new business?
The mayor's not the one calling.
Yes. Sure. Yeah. You're calling for a motion.
The person who's leading the meeting is asking, is there a motion for it, for any new
Meeting.
business? You would
I
say,
think
I would.
historically,
Yeah.
the reason this came up was because it's hard for a trustee who had a particular something that you wanted to get on the agenda.
Mhm.
And the process for getting a topic on the agenda was not super clear.
We also didn't have a spot in the agenda to open that.
Or because it just never got on the agenda, then, then that create frustration. So I think just for the benefit of the folks who.
Yeah.
There.
So we can just add the phrase, to introduce an item of business, the mayor or duly designated shall call for a motion, including for items of new business.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that one sounded clearer to me. The first one was felt circular. I didn't quite follow it.
Well, I'm just reading, to introduce an item of business or to take any action at a duly convened meeting of the village board, the mayor, in the absence of disqualification of the mayor, a duly designated presiding officer shall call for a motion, including for any item of new business.
Does that seem like?
Yeah, you're calling for the motion, you're not making a motion, so that's the. Of course, it doesn't foreclose you from making a motion, you are under. Many of our deciding officers actually make first motion on all the resolutions, but it's really up to the deciding officer.
Anything else on this?
All things or.
The whole thing, because we're moving to. Oh, time minutes, 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes in here. We want to make sure, there's that big clock. We want to make sure that when we, not tonight or maybe later, I'll try and make sure that everyone understands when there's a lot of people that there's a clock and that it's non-discriminatory, we stopping everyone. And
Because we have to be consistent too and not create some people.
right, and we can't go back and forth, that's part of this, it's just them speaking to us, try not to, workshop things and drill.
I was gonna say that it'd be great, start with any public comment and everyone, 3 minutes. People like, it's like, we don't be responding to you, but fans.
And this weekend, and two, back to you, and
I think we want to say that every.
Yeah,
The
that's
school
to
board has
me.
a disclaimer that they actually.
I have a hard time.
no, I was gonna say, I need to get something that I was just reading, not out of it in time to be honest.
And we'll have we'll have this printed once, I make the 2 changes so far and any other changes you prefer. We can have them available, in the back of the room along with the agendas. It'll be on the it'll be on the website and we can post it on the first board and do whatever.
All right,
You would like.
Sorry, just one question on the 3 minutes. So does this, this says main MRC 3 minutes, but does that give us the flexibility, like say there was an example where we had 100 people show up and we're like, we're not gonna have time to give everyone 100 minutes, could we say we have 2 minutes? Like this is what, there's other examples of, so I work with that do that, so I was just, the way it's written here. Like, right, just can't.
is there a way to make it 3 minutes or to a limit as defined or in the at the beginning, it's like an outset action.
I will say, yes, like, like pretty controversial. We have, for months, or years, I've never been a time, I mean, they've
Yeah.
gone long, but there's never been a time to. Tremendously, like I totally get where it's. There was an easy way for us to. Without full interest into it.
But
And it sounds like
historically,
a community board scar.
no, but
Well, New York City Council does that, like, if there's like, you know, hundreds of people that show up, they'll say like, we're limiting comments to 2 minutes. Cause that doesn't happen
But
with all.
historically, what we've done when there's, 40 people show up to talk about one issue, the mayor usually says something like, if you're, like, some people just like read the same letter. Right,
Yeah.
like, sometimes we'll get like, like a letter, email, and it's the copy paste letter from, it's good to hear that there are 50 people who think strongly about something, but we don't need to hear 50 people read the letter. So I think historically, we just said like, hey, if you have a repetitive comment, maybe you could sort of get together and promote a representative, and different opinions can come up, but say it's all time, and people have to be respectful of that, it's most.
I was hired, I go back home, they actually fill out a card, give me your name, your number, I was, sometimes you can't write fast on what the topic is, and it's the same as, and before, just say I agree with, item number one, you go through, I guess 3 minutes. But give it to somebody else if it's the same time, it moves down.
And it says it may not exceed 3 minutes unless otherwise modified and authorized prior to the start of the public comment period. So I can make that clearer that it can be up or down.
That's fine.
Is that good?
All right, Donna, was there anything we have three? Next, Donna, do you have anything from home? We can't hear you, you're on
Muted.
mute.
Sorry, my dog was barking. No, I agree. I mean, I think if we have 40 people coming, have the 5 points they want to make, it streamlined some of the input, covering everything they want to cover, but just having one representative represent them.
Moving on. So next up is the future of parklets. We want to get the consensus of the board on whether or not you'd like to continue with the parklet program. And for some backstory, started during COVID as a way to get more support the local businesses so that they would have more outdoor safe space to serve their clients. And then it's just kind of continue year after year ever since, because, people argue that it's super nice for the downtown to have people dining outside, and it does still support them by giving them more sort of more people strengthening their business after the death. Destroyed during COVID. But it's been going on for a lot of years now, and so before we have a vote on moving it forward, or actually not having a vote at all, I wanted to get everyone's thoughts on it. So thankfully, Department of Rock pulled together information for us to base this on. They have the historical information over the years. We currently have 5 participants, I guess, according to this, with 7 spaces being used. But they did want to point out that there's substantial amount of outstanding payments that they asked for. They've been going back to the businesses trying to get the payments for the parklets and are having some trouble collecting.
Didn't pay a phone.
Because it's a month-to-month license, they wanted to stop
Somebody,
in October rather than January.
And this is $200 a month.
It's per space, it's a license fee per parking space.
Was it $200?
Just no payment.
So this has been going on for a very long
each
time, and it's
parking space.
outstanding. So we've been getting this for free, but also it costs us, right? Because that orange thing, that costs us.
And setting it up.
But also
Lost parking revenue.
Well, that's what the
supposed to
fee is
cover the
designed
200.
to cover.
Yeah.
But we're not recovering it.
And you're not entitled to apply for the next year unless you're paid.
So I vote no.
Oh.
I make a motion to vote no.
No motions here,
Oh.
just consensus.
Okay.
So I don't. I think it's, my personal take is it's a little less straightforward than like, should we or should we not? So here are some things that are on my mind. The orange things are horrendous.
Yeah.
We last year said that we were going to, this year, if we were to do it again, create some standards that they have to abide by. As far as I know, we've done nothing about it. We do that though.
We put up, it's in.
We did, and we updated
Yeah, last year. So there were still all these orange things though, so we were going to this year say, no more orange things, if we did it for 26, that's 26, so I would say, no more, if we proceed, no more orange things. Period. Another thing I would say is, I think we should, I mean, I certainly think it's disqualifying if you've got any outstanding payments, but I also think that we need to look at, so I believe that the way that the licensing fee was originally developed was around the like lost revenue from parking, but there are benefits and detriments that are not exactly able to be quantified with, you know, those dollars, cents. I think there's a sense that in the downtown is pride, which is not scientific, that they take up too much space, and a lot of times, to be honest, they are pretty empty. A lot of the, you know, the hottest parts of the summer, no one wants to sit out there. I also think that if you look at what rents are, I understand we can't charge like an average per square foot rent for this, but it seems, I don't know, it just seems like sort of unfairly applied, or, you know, it's like, I don't believe Readers has ever asked us to like, you cannot basically conduct, like, we have all these restrictions around sidewalk sales and things for businesses that are not restaurants, but then restaurants get this basically very low priced add-on to their square footage, which I think has a lot of other benefits, but just pointing that out, that the folks who, you know, have asked questions about that. I think this should be looked at in the context of all of our sort of outdoor downtown programming, like what are our policies around sidewalk sales, what are our policies around what exists in the patio permitting, which honestly is like not that much or less expensive than I mean, it's not less expensive, but sidewalk cafe is like $105 or something of a permit, plus you have to develop schematics of what goes there, and there are only some things that are allowed and aren't allowed. And to me, intuitively, and I think you look at this more scientifically, but if you're doing something that is not impeding any parking and is not impeding any sidewalk use, that should be I would think that should be strongly encouraged compared to, you know, something that is going to take away a parking space. And in addition, I guess my final point for now is, I think 2 spaces, I think our threshold for granting 2 spaces should be, if we decide to proceed, which I wanted to be more thinking about this, 2 spaces to be in a downtown of our size. It's like very large, and I think it creates we already have a sense that parking is very bad. Again, we negotiate all you want about how many spaces are at 99-seater. People don't want to park there, they want to park on Cedar and Main. So if we've got, you know, 12 spaces on Cedar and Main that are taken up with parklets, you know, there's a sense that we're not doing enough to support the other businesses. So those are just in my years of hearing the points that have been raised downtown.
If somebody has outstanding debts and they want to park it.
Well, they don't get it unless they're paid.
It's like 72.
I think that people with
It's
outstanding,
7,200 those businesses.
those businesses are maybe the ones that have dropped out of the program. Is that?
Right.
One-
You can
one
prorate,
dropped out.
you Drop out early, December 31st, it's earlier prorated for us, our businesses. It's been filed, so they're under the radar. Things are out there. So the second-
Still things are out there that are not contract.
Right, there's no license.
How many of them are, how many of the five? Work that I'm just wondering. And how many, is there one, are all five truant, or is it just like one bad actor, or what?
We got a couple $100.
It's a range, yeah,
It's a little
from,
bit everything.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, I mean, I definitely think if we were to see it also, the payments be made up, start the month, the same way, so rent is paid, it shouldn't be like end of the season. It should, same way, there's.
Billed monthly.
Well, then it should be, well, if it's not paid,
Then
then
take it away.
it goes away.
Yeah, and that, it says under the terms that you have to comply, or then you'll be, then, because you have, since it's a license, it has to be a license, so it's public street. It's a licensed terminal.
They say if they don't pay for like the second month, then DPW comes in, takes the orange.
They can.
What's the
Well,
labor on that?
There's more than just taking
It's
away.
more than that,
the
because they got wood around them and everything is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of labor.
There's furniture as well, like, it's not quite as easy as.
Well, then we.
So can we have like a minimum of how
Then
long
we
they
block
rent?
it off, or, I don't know,
Block it
it's,
off.
we're not the first, New York City, others don't, at this, we don't have to start from scratch on.
That's for the deposit maybe? So
Yeah.
Let's
we can use
just
the
get
deposit.
I just wanna get a feeling for how much we should even still talking about it,
I've never
or,
been more than one about these. I've always felt that it is subsidizing additional square footage for a certain class of businesses to that's made. I've always been sort of reluctantly raising my hand with them because it seemed popular. But you're right, demand is gone way down. With the notable exception of Sam's at some time, right? And they're also the biggest one. But
On the side street, it's too.
with cookery, yeah, I don't even, were they even up last summer? They
Yeah,
seem to be using it for-
Yeah,
they seem to be using it for, no, I know, but they seem to be using it for storage for a long time rather than for business activity. So I'm generally, like, if everybody's not gung ho about, like, we must keep this, then I would rather see what happens if we take it down for a year, and if it causes a hubbub, like, where did they go? We love them, then we can.
Also doesn't foreclose serving on the street on the dine out nights when the streets are closed. It doesn't foreclose that. The restaurants can still pull tables out and put up a
But those are
corral
special
on the
events.
special events, so.
I would also say that on the sidewalk point, we should look at making access to the sidewalks for every business, if you meet certain criteria. We should look at it as a beautification and downtown kind of economic development initiative, and maybe that we can look at this more, but if we take this program away, I think what we should say is we're getting rid of permits for sidewalks, for sidewalk patio. Sidewalk cafes. And by the way, retailers can have planters and clothing racks and like Adirondack chairs without filing for a permit fee and getting an architect to submit a thing to the building department. I just think it's a little bit in my.
There's a little bit of that already, because like readers will put merchandise out, in.
Yeah, I don't know if, I think I'm sure there are some folks who have submitted for permits for some of those things, and there maybe some that haven't. I don't know how well it's being enforced, as we've seen. We have some issues with that, but I think we should be proactive in encouraging it and giving people ideas about what they can do and what we want to see, because we are spending so much effort on downtown revitalization, and I have no issue eliminating those fees, because we eliminate, we are incentivizing with the downtown the grants from the county did. We're doing a lot to try to incentivize a more beautiful and vibrant downtown, so I would love to see us just go all in on helping businesses do what we kind of we would like to see, and that like a guide, that the county did upstate, that like we encourage you to use these colors, and we encourage you to do things like this, and here's this grant money that we still have from the dig to help do things like this.
So then I think that if it would make sense to everybody, I think that I would venture to say maybe we don't proceed with the new parklet program, but we put it in its place, and have the LDC come up with what could be the new incentives for other things that could still help in the revitalization of downtown Maine, like you're talking about.
I don't know that the code has permission for outdoor sales. I don't think that
We
there's a
don't have, we
permit.
can't go through that right now.
No, but what I'm saying is, I don't know that there is a permit.
There's a sidewalk.
I think that's for just a
Well, there's
regulation,
sidewalk
so
cafe.
somebody doesn't, like, you need the ADA.
Okay, so still can't go through this right now. because
Yeah.
we have to move on.
Yeah. I agree. I think that we established this for a particular need at a particular time. And it's always very hard to take away an entitlement, even when all reason points to its sort of dated efficacy. So I haven't used one in years. I mean, like you pointed out, one of them is sometimes used as storage. I think it's time to move on from this and implement some other newer ideas for giving businesses an opportunity to, make a.
And Donna, Laura,
The only thing I'll add is that I think it could contribute to the rodent issue, having these outdoor dining designated as. Cities are, sorry to keep using the city as an example, but I worked on the outdoor dining program in the city, and so that's the only thing, but I agree with what
Some of
everybody
us are
said.
living on the platforms.
Yeah.
no, Donna? Donna, anything to add?
Yeah, just a question. Will we ever consider just making it seasonal? So
Yes.
they have to take it down from October through April,
It's just that we
and
had
then,
down, and I think it was.
No, but that was the point, but some of the restaurants, namely the cookery, wanted to keep it up and they wanted to put in heat, but when this started, it was seasonal, and then the board entertained extending it, and then the last extension was through December 31st of last year. So it has, it's a pilot program, and it has to be, because you're not allowed to reserve parking spaces for the benefit of a single property owner. But in this case, it has expired at this point, effective the end of 2025. So now you're looking at whether you want to restart the program or whether you want to create an alternative.
And I just want to make sure that if we, sounds like we're moving in the direction of not renewing this program, I want to make sure that we communicate clearly with the businesses,
I will.
that they're doing it and start to outline some of the things we
Yeah,
want to work
and
on.
because we can also ask for their input on what other things they would want.
Yeah.
And then we can help with that.
Yeah, I think their problem with the sidewalk cafes is some of the sidewalks can't accommodate the cafe, so,
We'll talk about.
yeah, but we can
will
talk
let
about,
her know.
what else you'd like to see.
Okay, all right, that's cool, we're good. So we won't add that to. Left turn from Maple Broadway, this is some vintage content that we'll be looking at when they. You do it fast, I think Park Mobile, I'm just gonna say this now, we have, not enough time to probably do both, but we have Park Mobile on the regular agenda, so we just do a discussion.
So, back when we were, planning for the Broadway repaving, back, when Melissa was the village administrator, so many, many moons ago, Isabel and I, initially with Melissa, but then she just sort of took through the process, worked with Sam Schwartz, traffic engineering, to work on the restriping plan. We did two different, studies, one for over by the Terrace, one for, the area, almost in front of the school from, Broadway County. And as part of that, the traffic committee recommended, even long before this, that the area in front of the school, though it was wide enough for 2 lanes-ish, it wasn't really wide enough for 2 lanes, but it was marked as 1 lane. So they wanted to make it very clear that it should be 1 lane in each direction. That allowed us to also put in a left turn lane in school, which would be traffic and buses. There was a plan, because we were only gonna have one lane, going southbound. There was a need to eliminate, left turns from Broadway onto Maple. Similarly, there was a desire to, eliminate left turns from Maple onto Broadway southbound, because a lot of commuters were, trying to avoid lights by going down Washington, Maple, and going that way, and they were all in a rush, and it was creating difficulty crossing guard to manage and safety to get. So we agreed that there would be no left from Broadway and onto Broadway at the intersection. In preparing the maps and drawings for the DOT, Sam Schwartz marked it as no left turn 7 to 9 a.m. And I, in going through that, failed to catch that because it was intended to be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. to match the school speed zone, and because there was no, the reasons were the same for having no left turn in the morning and the afternoon. In fact, even almost greater in the afternoon because the pedestrian traffic isn't quite as concentrated towards a single opening time because of after school activities and crossing guard disappears. So when that went into place, I saw that it was wrong. In fact, I made a snarky comment to a crossing guard who pointed at the sign, and I said, "Oops," and brought it up with Rob, and he was like, "Well, that's what the drawing said," and Rob wasn't wrong. And you know, this is one of those things where I'd ask for it to get on an agenda, and here it is a year and 4 months later on an agenda. So like my heart is warm. Previously it was frustrating. But the thing that is for consideration is, do we want to create a resolution to request of the DOT that they change the no left turn period from Maple onto Broadway and from Broadway onto Maple, from 7 to 9 a.m. to 7 a.m. From that to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Rob Barron wasn't able to be here to represent the traffic committee. Spoke to him yesterday. His mother is turning 99 today. So he is otherwise obligated. But the traffic committee stand by that recommendation. I, feel silly for not having caught that in the maps years ago. But I would like to make that change from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Also worth noting that we were very worried that people from Maple would be upset when we made that change. I haven't heard Pete. People seem to have accommodated, just generally, people seem to have accommodated that idea and had, previously been talking about how, cars would, go around left turning cars and almost hit kids. That is actually happening now in the afternoons because there's not even 2 lanes. There's now sort of like cars that try to get over. Travis, you can maybe confirm this. Cars will go into the sort of the yellow islandish area, and then others will try to pass them, and there's a crossing right there. And so if you're screened, if you're on the right, you're screened, you're not going to see a kid that's about to step in front of your car. So it is, in fact, even worse from a safety perspective than it was before. So anyway, that's my.
Can you change the sign from?
It's a state road, you can't, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why it's gotta be a resolution.
The
So
first,
the
the
one
first
that-
sign on
one-
Maple.
the first map was able to.
But can we change this?
So we can change the sign on Maple, right?
Yeah.
But so there's 2 signs that we want to change. There's the one
Yes.
going from Broadway to Maple, and
Either
there's
left.
one going from Maple to Broadway.
Onto and off.
And so we would need to write the resolution for the one on Broadway to Maple, and we would just be able to write our own We have to write a resolution.
It should be consistent with some of the.
It should be consistent.
901.
So it's both of them.
But the more serious, in the afternoon, the greater need is actually the Broadway onto
Right,
Maple,
just one with-
which is the one we need the DOT for.
Right, and where is that big question, I mean, I don't know if there's a proposal also right now it says 7 to 9 AM only. If it says 7 to 9, also 4 to 6, or you want the whole day?
Well, the idea was to match it to the speed zone so that there's not like, people don't have to have like a list of different routes depending on what turn they're making. But like from a safety perspective, it doesn't matter if it's, 2 shorter times a day.
No, it doesn't matter, because kids go for lunch and they go to the gas station, they go home,
Yeah.
so I
Then
think
7
you,
to 6.
then now you have 3 periods and different kids have different lunch periods, it should be the whole block.
Okay, no, I didn't realize that. I was just trying to make it safe. but also
No, I
keep
get it.
traffic moving, so-
I think this is like, we talked about this signage at the time, we all thought that's what we were gonna get, something happened, it didn't work out. It's been a thorn in everyone's side, with kids walking across that every day, so I think we should fix it. I realize it's pain to have to do it DOT, but like,
I mean, I was so ready to blame the DOT, but this time it turned out not to be.
They engineered the drawing, that's why I put.
No, it was Sanford's made the initial error and it was my error for
let's
not
just
catching
fix
it.
it.
Well, no, they have error.
Well, yeah, but I was.
Some little bit.
So we have to revise section 29010 prohibited left turns to add, name of the street or location is Maple. And the direction of travel is southeast.
It's coming on Maple.
It's west.
Driving west on
Means
Maple.
south.
Driving west at the intersection of Broadway. Correct?
But
Yeah.
but,
I wouldn't do one before the other. I would try to coordinate them so that we're not like.
and should we?
If you're
have the
coming
school
west
wait
on
for
Maple, then you should make a left, which would make you go south.
You know, we should ask them.
Okay, right.
So it's just.
We have contacts at DOT, will offer them
Yeah, but if the school, I feel like the school says.
any muscle.
Yes.
Yeah, we could certainly ask the school for, and, this was I don't know if it's still there, but it leads in on it, the DOT.
Okay. Whoever that is, there is a person who's.
Also just throwing out there, let me know if you have any issues with state DOT, because I have good relationships with them.
Oh, we always.
Boy, do
have
I have
so many.
issues with safety.
Let me
We have
introduce you
more.
to Chauncey Park.
Okay, yeah, let me know.
And a stoplight, and a stoplight.
Yeah, let's
DOT, the
Route 9
division.
project.
Start a whole agenda.
Don't start that. 'cause
We got 5 minutes.
DOT kills us.
So the village can, we would put on the next agenda, consider that. Or prepare.
I would start with, recommend starting with the DOT resolution, and we have
So
an
we have to
idea
public
when that
hearing
is,
and all that.
we'll change it on Maple. I just think we shouldn't stagger it, we should,
And no, there's one thing that is our path.
no, I know, but I think we should do ours around the same time
I
that,
think we should just be safer early.
yeah, but the bigger safety problem is not the left turn from Maple onto Broadway, the bigger safety problem is the Broadway onto Maple.
But should we just,
But we can
can we
just
pass
have
a
it.
resolution?
It's a local law.
So then we just public hearing and all that.
Cool, let's start with experience.
Yeah.
And if need be, when.
We can call to.
Well,
I guess we have to write up the law.
Have I just put it out and downloaded it so I can get it over to you.
Cool, thank you all.
Back to local law. Call for public hearing.
No, I'm writing, I would like to add comments. And then stop.
Sure.
Just my thing.
Yeah.
My own access to the shit.
You
Okay,
need to train on that.
all right, So we're should we go into the council, you have, what is it?
I was gonna discuss the PLA
Yes,
process
PLA
with you, and answer questions with you. But that's gonna be worth the 2 minutes. So much.
This isn't really special, so.
You might, yeah, you might.
Do that at the end, or does that be, is which way?
No.
There.
But that's executive session. So
So
then
the
you have to
employee
go back.
handbook for next time. Is there any other questions?
You have to go out into executive session, discuss the salary.
Got it.
Yeah, that's not advice, so that's a question. Executive session.
I feel like we need
And so I can, you know, I can discuss it with you. It's not
New business, that's not on the agenda.
it's just general.
It's just general.
Okay, so we will just do for the regular meeting, and then at the regular meeting, we can go into executive session, just talk about salary.
Is that on for resolution?
Well,
No, it's just discussion.
We would make. The resolution for the salary increase is not on the resolution.
right,
Yeah, so you can take a motion to go into executive session and then return back here to finish your agenda.
all right, then, I have a motion for